welcome. You'd like to bring yourself to a comfortable upright seated position. You could be using a bolster, folded blanket, a block, or any other things you have around, maybe a chair, whatever's comfortable for you. Readjusting to make sure that you're sitting towards the front of your sit bones. We tilt our pelvis slightly forward, and that's partly why we raise ourselves up, because if our pelvis don't easily tilt slightly forward, we'll be sitting with our backs rounded, more likely. Once you've settled yourself upright, bring your awareness to your body. Perhaps close your eyes, or settle your gaze in a downward direction with your head still looking forward. You may like to imagine that you are balancing a book on top of your head. How would you hold your head if you were balancing a book on top? At the base of our spine, coccyx sacrum. On the top of our spine, approximately between our ears. And drawing the awareness to the breath. You may like to say to yourself as you breathe in, the words breathe in. And as you breathe out, say to yourself the words breathe out. You may find that's too short. You might like to add breathe in, breathe in, breathe out, breathe out. And if your capacity is greater still, 3 times. So that the number of times you repeat the words equals the length of your breath, and that the in and the out are roughly equal. If you find it a challenge to make one part of the breath equal, i.e. that the exhale seems a little longer, or the inhale seems a little longer, and changing that is difficult, reduce the one that's easier and make it even with the one that's less easy. So if you find breathing out more comfortable, adjust the length of your breath out to your breath in. Become aware of the movement of your breath in your body. And then to that we will add a nyasa, a gesture. And it helps us to focus on our breathing. Keeps all our senses attuned to what we're doing as opposed to being out elsewhere in our lives and the world. So bringing the thumb to the root, to where the first finger meets the hand on each hand. So the thumb is at the bottom of the first finger on the right hand and the bottom of the first finger on the left hand. And as you say to yourself, breathe it in, or breathe in, or whichever number you're doing, you slide your right thumb up your right finger to the top, taking as long as your breath takes. And as you breathe out, you slide that thumb all the way back down to the base of the first finger, as close as you can get, taking the time it takes to breathe out. You then shift your awareness to your left, and on the next breath, you breathe in, and you breathe in, and you breathe in, up the left first finger. As you breathe out, you slide your thumb slowly down your finger as you breathe out, to the length of your breath. When you've done the left, you return to both and you go up with both fingers to the tip of your first finger with your thumb. As you breathe out, come all the way slowly back down with your breath. So the first breath is the right. Second is the left. The third is both together, both fingers and thumbs. Continue. Right. Close your eyes and focus on the movement, the action, the words and the breath. Stay with the practice. Close your eyes or drop your gaze and be in your own body, working diligently and honestly with this practice. Repeat once more around all three parts, right, left, middle, or both. Stilling the mind, withdrawing the senses, using the breath and the movement to direct our attention inward and to occupy the mind. So perhaps the practice of breathing, pranayama, is less challenging when we have something else to add to it, either the words or the gesture with the hands, the movement of the hands. So if you'd like to, you can release your legs, stretch them out, give them a little shake off perhaps, release the knees, the ankles. And we're going to begin with ourselves on all fours. If your knees are a little dodgy, you find that tricky, then you might want to start lying on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, and work up and down into a gentle bridge pattern. And we're about loosening and gently waking up the spine. So whatever you find is appropriate for you, you can do that. Otherwise, coming over onto your knees, if you need padding, use your blankets folded. Move your blocks and bolsters, etc., out of your way. Think about the fact that your wrists are going to be in line with your armpit, as if you're holding your arms straight out, parallel with your shoulders. Often we tend to hold a little bit up. Where would that be? So if I hold my arms out in front of me, where would my face look straight between my hands? Where would that be? And we can repeat that action as we bring our hands down. So if we found that we were looking and we thought our eyes were roughly level with the middle finger, then if we find we're suddenly beyond them, then we've gone too far forward. And if we're back looking at our thumbs, we may be too far closed. Knees underneath pelvis, nice gentle flat sacrum area. Working gently with your body And inviting the movements. Are my hands wide enough apart, supporting and releasing my shoulders? And then when you feel ready, breathe out. Bring the abdominals gently back, tuck the tail under, and allow your head to sink. As you breathe in, float through between your arms, lift the tail gently up towards the sky. When you're ready to breathe out again, start from the center and round the back with as little forward and backward movement at the moment through the body. So you're controlling it with your hands and your knees and your shins and your feet, tops of your feet. And then the spine can move. We're pressing down through the hands, the knees, shins, helps us to round. Imagining we're pulling the knees and the hands together softly, helps us to lengthen through the front of the body. 2 more times, breathing out, rounding. And breathing in, lengthening the front of the spine. And you may like to drop back to a child pose for a moment, perhaps bringing your elbows near your knees. The head doesn't easily come down or bottom doesn't easily come down. You could have the fists underneath your forehead. So we're inviting a release across our lower back here, almost from the waist down as our emphasis, rather than weight into our head. So we'll avoid too much weight in the head. Of course, if your head easily goes down, some might have a slight gap left between their knees from the cat-cow, and that's perfectly fine too. Others may have their knees closer together. Take a few breaths there, feeling that movement in the back of the body and the ribs as you breathe. Your abdominals will still probably be moving because of the diaphragm, but maybe because of the compression, it's less noticeable at the front and more noticeable at the sides and the back. When you feel ready, those of you who are on all fours, coming back there, if you're on your back with your feet on the floor, you can take this one as well, and you'll be using one leg. So if you're able to, you're going to lift the pelvis off the floor. I'll just show you quickly for those who might be doing it. You're down, you bring yourself up, and then you can extend your leg away, bring it back down, extend your leg away, and you can alternate, or you can do one leg 3 or 4 times. Those of us on all fours are moving into Tiger Virabhadrasana. So we're back into our all fours position, finding that inner strength, control. As we breathe in, we'll take the right leg out behind us and lift it, looking forward, shoulders back. And as we breathe out, we use the body to pull ourselves together. We breathe in, same leg, lifting up and out. We're doing 4 times with each leg and with the breath. Coordinate your movements, your strength, your breath. This is as slow as you can breathe. And keeping the pelvis as level as you can. After your 4th closing, place the knee down, check all parts. Transfer the weight, drop down through 2 hands and right leg, and lift the left leg out behind you. Breathe out, pull yourself together. In, stretch it away, shoulders away from ears. Keep the pelvis as balanced as you can. When you've completed your 4, once again, if you like, you can sink down. If you're on your back, hug your knees in if that's comfortable, or stretch both legs out. And slowly coming back onto all fours, taking it into down face dog. We're going to work there a little bit. For those of you who may have a knee problem and you have a bolster at hand, as long as it's not too hard, or maybe a rolled blanket, you might want to experiment with having your shins on your bolster and tucking your toes under to lift yourself up into a down face dog without putting weight through your knees. I don't know if that would be a benefit for some people who have knee issues, but it might be a way of accessing down face dog, which doesn't directly affect your knees and still inviting you to join in. So if that works for you, give it a go, play with that one. If it's too high, you could use, you don't have to drop your bottom down to your heels as you're on it. You can leave most of the weight forwards, as if you're on all fours, or you are on all fours, but your shins are high on a bolster. Tucking the toes in for everybody else, making sure you've got a good, strong hand position and spreading those fingers out nicely and strongly. Use the earth, so press down through your hands and find your toes. Press your toes down. Take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, lift your knees off the floor and move your abdomen to your thighs first before you begin to take the buttocks up. And your buttocks, remember, are going away from your wrists, not from your heels. So keep your body moving backwards away from your hands and your wrists. So your head lies roughly approximately between your arms, depending on your shoulders. Have a look back at your feet and notice how far your feet are off the floor. You might want to lift your feet high. You're bending the toes, lift your heels as high as you can. And you may notice you could then move your abdomen a little closer to your thighs. Don't worry about straightening your legs. Keeping your abdomen there, can you let your heels drop towards the floor? You may find a stretch through your calves. How are you breathing? And then gently dropping back down, either knees to floor or knees onto your bolster. Okay. So for those who want to, we're going to do similar to a tiger, but stretching our legs up behind us, if that's appropriate. If it isn't appropriate, then you could perhaps work at moving in and out of the down face dog a few times and improving that sense of moving backwards. Remembering that what we're looking for is that wrist that's on the floor and the long line through the side of the body to effectively the hip pelvis. So that's what you're looking for. Of course, depending on your shoulders, some people's arms may be forward of their heads because of where their arm ends coming this way. So work appropriately for you. It's not about dipping your back, it's not a back bend, it's a straight line. All right, so working with that. And if for those who want to, lifting up your leg and holding it up there for 4 breaths, changing over, sending the other leg up for 4 breaths, and then changing over again, if you feel it's possible for you. So tucking your toes under, find your hands. When you're ready, tucking the toes tight, push on the feet, push the heels away, abdomen to thighs first, then lifting the buttocks. You can go high onto your toes first before you drop your heels if you like. And then you can take your right leg and extend your heel away from your wrist. So we're looking for a straight line-ish from heel to wrist through that right side of the body. If you're able to stay for 4 breaths, otherwise come down and change over. And gradually drop your right hip towards the floor rather than twisting towards the left. When you're ready, changing over, drop the heels and push the opposite heel. You can drop the heel of the leg that's on the floor, pressing down through, stretching that calf, but you're pulling the top heel away from that wrist that's on the floor. Feel that as if someone has hold of your heel and is pulling you backwards. What's your breath doing? Can you drop that left hip down a bit? And still lift the leg, and that's about the front of the leg. Then releasing your legs down, resting either in child pose if you need to drop your wrists back the opposite way before you go down there, or press your hands backwards just to release your wrists. Make circles with your wrists. Whatever feels right for you. And we're rolling over onto our backs. So if you're happy to come to lie on your back, and you'll need a little space beside you. So make sure you have space beside you. You can begin in Shavasana, letting your legs stretch out, your arms release to the sides, perhaps supporting your head, particularly if you find that it's important for you to allow your throat to drop back. So folding over a couple of blankets or one blanket, whatever you need, and placing that behind the back of your head. Inviting ourselves to lie on our occipitals, which are down a bit behind the eyes, approximately level with, starting from the tops of your ears. So coming to lie down gently, and bring your awareness to your breath. You might like to be aware of the length of your inhale, the length of your exhale. We're going to begin with working our lying twist in a yin way, so working it and holding for time. As we know, the yin pose is surrendering. We want to find the stretch, the sensation, and allow that to be, where we aren't resisting it. We're not holding against it. We can feel something, we know something's happening. We avoid pushing into it, going too close to the edge, and equally we avoid feeling nothing. So something happening. If we stay, and as we stay, something gets less, we can add to it. If it becomes too much, we can ease out. So working with your own body as it is today. Some of you may want to have some props at hand. We're going to let the legs drop over to the left to begin with. So you might want to put a bolster on the left-hand side of your body, or blocks, or whatever else you have to hand if you know that you would find those useful. If you've got a bolster, I would suggest you put the top of the bolster somewhere near your pelvis. That's probably a good place to start with it. I can show you a couple of variations of ways of accommodating legs subject to what you find. We come down to lie with our knees bent, arms gently out towards the sides, away from us, and we rearrange any bolsters and things that we need to. Your head face can begin looking upwards towards the ceiling, and you can turn it in the opposite way to the legs if you wish, and some people find that that's really nice to turn it the same way. Sometimes it gives you a different stretch in the side of your neck. Accommodate yourself on that one. If you're able to, bring your knees onto your chest to begin. Settle your lower back deep into the earth. And using the center to control, take your legs over to the left. And if you have a bolster and you find it helpful, you rest both legs and feet on the bolster. If your legs can go further, you move the bolster out of the way. Some people find that it's more beneficial to have the bolster between the legs, because the bottom leg will go down, but the top leg won't meet. So it gets, if it's felt in the groin, then this option is often works. If not, then under both legs. You can have folded blankets doing this job as well, or several blocks. And then once you're settled and in your position, bring your awareness to your body. and your breath, and you settle into that position. And you may choose to turn your head away from your legs, settling your right shoulder a little deeper into the earth. Or you may choose to let your head, during the hold, over to the other side. So you may want to play around with the sensation in the neck. Endeavour not to overplay. Find one position and stay with that for a while. Change it if you feel you need. As you settle and stay for time, you might begin to be aware once again of your breath. And you could repeat that breath and with the nyasa, the gesture, the moving gesture on your fingers. So your right thumb could move up your first finger as you breathe in and down as you breathe out. And then your left hand repeats with your breath. And then both together. It adds the quality of breathing well, allowing the body to be there and staying for time. Let your breath be deep and rhythmic. And each exhale might invite you to drop, sink, release a little deeper. Softly releasing yourself, bringing the legs back to the middle, pausing there for a moment and checking in with your body. If you require your props for the other side, you can move them over there. And draw the knees back up once more onto your chest. And using the center, carefully release them over to the other side. Remember, knees want to be high towards the elbow, but comfortably for you. And supported, the twist is coming from roughly middle lower ribs area. The left shoulder is towards the floor. You could use some padding underneath that. And begin to settle yourself here. Checking if your shoulders aren't too high. If we have the arm really high, that could be compromising. But if you have some stretch across the upper chest, that might be appreciated. And once you've settled, you might want to close your eyes and once more return to breathing in, letting the thumb float up the first finger of the right hand. As you breathe out, floating down. As you breathe in, left first finger, out, down, up both first fingers, out and down. Inviting your breath deep and wide into your left ribs, which are currently the most open side of your body. Surrendering into the practice. Letting go on each exhale. Sinking. Surrendering. Softly, comfortably easing your way back to the center. Perhaps allowing your legs to float away and releasing your arms back beside the body. What do I notice? What do I find? We're going to roll ourselves over in a moment onto our fronts and invite ourselves to do the cattail stretch. So some of you may find this is appropriate and okay for you to do. It requires a bit of sensation down through the front of the thigh. It also has a little rotation in the body. We've already done the rotation, so that aspect of it fairly accessible. But if you have a limited stretch through your quad, then a belt around an ankle might be handy if you can't reach it. Alternatively, no straining, and you might want to instead use your belt and go into the half bow. So with a belt, you could strap it up, put it around your ankle, and that way you can get hold of it when you're there. So the leg that you're going to be holding, you can put your strap around it. Either way you're doing this. Obviously, if you're working with the bow, be lying on your front, maybe your head on it, releasing, and then you can take hold of the strap wherever you can bend your leg. If you're doing the cattail stretch, to start with the right leg, we have to send the left leg out to the left. So it's a bit like a commando crawl. Your head is down and you hike up your left knee to the side of your body without particularly moving your pelvis. Not easy to do, perhaps. So you slide your knee up as if you were a salamander coming along, and that's the way you're going to be. So that knee is up there. Okay, I'll turn around the other way so you can see more easily. And you slide that leg up. And this leg is your anchor, so that knee is your anchor. If you want to use it during it, you can always swing the lower leg out, but basically that's your anchor. So from there, facing the front, keeping the pelvis as low as you can, walk your right leg out to the right. So you've got your legs as wide as you're able to safely go. And this is when you turn your body towards the first leg. So that's you're turning towards the left as we're doing the right leg. And then your arm is ready to perhaps take hold of your foot or your strap, whatever you can reach, and find the stretch through. If you want, you can let your head come down. And we're encouraging that heel towards buttocks, the pelvis, and we're going to hold it for 2 minutes on each side. So as you're holding for time, what do you do with your mind? Perhaps you want to follow your breath once more. If the sensation in your quadricep, front of your thigh changes, you bring your heel a little closer, or push it perhaps for some a little further away, or extend the lower leg on the left and give yourself perhaps, possibly, a little hamstring stretch, but be safe. Enjoy it. Staying in the stretch. Working diligently. If you're on your front, in your bow, have you still got the stretch? And slowly releasing from cattail, come back to lying on your front. Experiencing difference in the two sides. If you're in bow, you're obviously still on the front, perhaps. And then those that need to, changing the strap to the other side. So generally in practice, I have 2 straps and 1 on each ankle. I don't have to change them over in the middle if I were using straps. And then coming to the other side. So sliding up your right knee to the side. Walking your left leg out. If you're doing cattail stretch, if you're doing bow, half bow, you're simply bending your left heel towards your buttocks. And turning towards your right knee. And taking hold of your left foot with your right hand. And you can rest your head down if you choose. Aware of your breath. Aware of the stretch. Usually primarily in the front of the thigh. And then settling into that sensation, inviting your breath to flow. inviting change within your physical structure that's safe and appropriate for you. What do I notice? What do I experience? And I allow this to happen. And softly releasing to come back to lie on your front. Perhaps resting your head on your hands, chin tucked down. Rebalance your pelvis if you need to, give a little wriggle or a wiggle. Spread your feet a little wider if you need. And surrender for a moment and breathe. Moving now onto your elbows into Sphinx, if that is appropriate for you. Readjusting your legs and the pelvis, using any padding that you need to underneath your hip bones. And then, when you're ready, just let yourself be there. Those who find that their sensation is purely here in the low back, it may be more appropriate to drop the ribs down a little bit and put your elbows further forward, resting your forehead in your hands or your chin, cheeks in your hands, and allowing the sensation to be more in this mid-thoracic area than your lumbar. If you have a very rounded, curved neck too, I would suggest the chin is slightly tucked in rather than exaggerating that. But if elbows underneath the shoulders works for you, then have them there. And you can begin in this position, possibly palms together, pressing the forearms and outside edge of the hands, little finger edge, into the floor, and inviting the shoulders back and the chest to open and lengthen away from the pelvis. And as you're holding, if the range of your spine is more than that, you can place the hands out, let the elbows lift off, and move into a Sphinx. But if this compromises your lower back, come back down onto your elbows. Work where you can easily maintain an appropriate sensation for you. We move when the body invites us, rather than when the ego invites us. Checking in as you stay. Another 40 seconds, approximately. Is this sensation still appropriate for me? Am I working well within my own ability? Surrendering gently back to the earth, arms alongside, head turned, or head resting on the hands. And moving gently over onto your back once more. And gently inviting your knees, very gently, very slowly, in towards your body. Hugging your knees, move them slowly and gently. Use whatever you need behind your head. So if you need blocks, cushions, blankets folded underneath your head. And softly ease the knees in. And you might want to rock or circle your knees. Whatever feels right for you after doing the back bend. So re-establishing the spine, you may want to place the feet on the floor for a moment and check that your pelvis and hips shoulders are roughly level and you're in a straight line again. Then bring the knees onto the chest, a little bit of cross patterning, working with the strength in our center, the legs and the arms. Have I got enough room over my head? If there's issues with your arms going all the way over the head, then it is possible to have your bolster to drop your arm on if that's helpful for you. So bringing your awareness to your pelvis, staying down on the floor, engaging those lower abdominal muscles in particular to keep that lower down, almost as if you're tipping your sit bones down towards the floor. And it will take your knees away a little bit. But as long as it doesn't pull the lower back off the floor, you're okay. If it does, put something underneath your pelvis to keep that tilt slightly up, then you can push down more easily and safely without your lower back arching. So left arm, right leg, as you breathe in, push the heel up away from the sit bone as the sit bone goes down and the arm goes over your head. Breathing out, arm starts first, then knee, back, heel towards pelvis. Breathing in, left leg, right arm. As you breathe out, slowly control the movements. Back of the neck long, supported if needed. Breathing in, keep your fingers, wrist in line with your arm. Control the movement with the breath. So you remember floating your thumb up your finger. This is very similar. Same thing with the whole body is moving. All the time you're breathing out, arm is coming back and then heel drops towards buttock. All the time you're breathing in, the heel is floating up and the arm is moving a little faster to go over your head. Continue. Repeating twice more, the right and the left. 4 more times. When you've completed, place the hands behind the knees or on top of the knees. And as you breathe in, allow the knees to go away till your arms are straighter. As you breathe out, draw the abdominals back and pull the knees into the chest, chin towards chest as well. Breathing in, just the knees, let the legs, lower legs hang. Breathe out, close yourself. Breathing in, arms away. Stay holding on all the time. 4 more times, breathing in as your legs move a little bit away. Breathing out, hugging in, Apanasana. And gently, once you've completed, placing your feet and perhaps floating your legs away. Leave the feet on the floor. Spread the arms. Close the eyes if you wish, and stay. If you choose, you can stay lying, perhaps bending your knees into constructive rest, so feet on the floor, knees bent. Or if you're happy to, you can bring yourself gently up and once again sit up into a comfortable upright position on a chair or a bolster. Whatever might feel right for you. And then settling in, either on the floor or sitting. Making sure you're comfortable, and if you're a little cool, putting something over you. For those that are lying, you might want to simply let your arms drift out to the side, making sure the upper arms are away from the side of the body, palms towards the ceiling. If you want to allow the body to close a little and the mind to become more active, you could bring the thumb and the first finger to touch in Inan Mudra. For those who are sitting, you could either adopt Inan Mudra with the thumbs, first fingers, or you could bring all those 3 fingers together and swap them into Dhyana Mudra, the gesture of meditation. So the right hand goes on top of the left hand, and those first fingers, the first 2 segments of the index fingers rest against each other. Possibly the thumbs touch too or not, depending on your hands. And they can rest either in your lap or near your midriff navel. Shoulders released, head on top, eyes perhaps invited to close. Or the gaze to sink down your nose and away, while the head stays upright if you're seated, and supported or resting on the occipitals if you're lying. Let your breath settle. I wonder if you're able to imagine or see in your mind's eye, or remember seeing a dial, like a clock, but with only 10 numbers. 1 to 10. And there's a needle pointing at the numbers. And the needle can go up and the needle can go down. You can go from 1 up to 10 or 10 down to 1. I wonder if you're able to recall any particular emotions, thoughts, ways of being that have affected you recently. That's knocked you out of balance. Perhaps anxiety has been to the fore, or you've been feeling a little low recently. Take a moment to consider, have you been overactive, underactive, overexcited, lacking in energy, feeling down, feeling up, feeling anxious, being a little depressed? What is it you have been noticing and would like to have a little more control over? Be able to bring yourself a little more into balance. And when it was bad, if you consider when you last felt it, maybe it was earlier today, maybe it was yesterday or last week, what number would you give that on your dial when it was at its most acute or chronic? What number would the needle be pointing at between 10 being the worst and 1 being the best? So if you know where it was or is, perhaps you could choose to turn the dial down. What number could you safely turn the dial down to and experience it in that way? Same thing, but turn down. Or if you were down, turn it up. What number would you like or choose to find yourself at? And as you feel that dial move to the other number, what does that change about the way you are? Giving yourself some control. You can imagine, visualize, use the idea of the dial and the numbers whenever you need to. And if you successfully change that number, then you may find that you'd like to do it again, move it in a different direction even more, going up or down depending on where it needs to be for you to be in balance. Take a few moments to breathe yourself in that new number. Where is your needle now? And holding that sensation number there, bring your palms together at your heart. If you're lying on the floor, you can bring them together as well if you wish to. And send yourself a message of unconditional love. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. Hari Om Tat Sat. Namaste.